Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys have the 17th pick, said he's going to draft at home alone with nobody to stop him. I actually think the Cowboys are going to have a very predictable draft. I think it's one of the easy ones. They have to rebuild their secondary. They need a corner. They lost Byron Jones, and they need a safety. And I believe both will be available. First of all, the best safety out there, Xavier McKinney, will be available at 17. So if they want a safety, get him. I think corners, and you do too, are probably more valuables than safeties on average, unless you have a Jamal Adams or an Ed Reed or a Derwin James type athlete. And I think there'll be one of the two really good corners there. C.J. Henderson is one of the really good corners. So I think the Cowboys draft is pretty simple. We got to rebuild our secondary. The safety will be there. If the corner we like is there, is about 2 to 3 corners in this draft that are pretty good. And if one of the two are there, take him. Because I think they have a lot of things solved in Dallas. I do not think they have the secondary solved in a division with Carson Wentz, in a conference with Carson Wentz and Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Garoppolo and Matt Ryan and now Tom Brady and Drew Brees. You can't have a bad secondary. It's almost like in baseball. You cannot win a World Series with a bad bullpen. You can't be leaking runs 7th, 8th, and 9th inning and win a World Series. Say what you want about the Yankees' talent in the 90s. Mariano Rivera closed the door. That's why you win 4-3. You can't leak runs at the end of a playoff series or in games. Same in the NFL. If you're awful in the back end, Baltimore's secondary this year is going to be unbelievable. It makes up for a lot of mistakes in coverage. If you just have guys who can make up speed, world-class athletes. Dallas' secondary right now, it's bad. They got to fix safety, and they got to fix corner, and they're going to do it in the first round. Here's some teams I think can trade down. Obviously, Detroit, number 3. They want to trade down. I mean, they're throwing rumors out. I think the L.A. Chargers at 6. If they like Herbert or Tua, one of the two in Miami takes that player before them, Tyrod Taylor for a year, move down, get Jordan Love. He's not going to play for a year. Tyrod Taylor, smart guy, can be a good mentor. I think the New York Jets, they're a fascinating team to me. So my favorite corners, one of the guys I have questions about is Mekhi Becton, the offensive tackle. I don't think the Jets love him. And I think there's a risk there. If you're the Jets and Jedrick Willis is gone and Wirfs is gone from Iowa, and, you know, the guys you really like, and Andrew Thomas, Georgia, who I think is my second favorite tackle, if he's gone and you need a tackle and you think Becton's a big risk, although talented, you're 11, just move down. You could get Josh Jones at 18. You can get Austin Jackson maybe in the 20s. I think the Jets are a team that unless one of the 3 tackles they really like is available, just move down and get a guy like Austin Jackson, who's going to be a 10-year pro, but he's not like Jedrick Wills ready to play today, or Andrew Thomas ready to play today. So those are the teams. I think Dallas is a really simple draft. We need a safety. We need a corner. If the corners are gone, we'll take the safety. If one of the corners we like is there, we take the corner. But Dallas doesn't have a lot of real weaknesses. I mean, they're not going to be as good at center with Travis Frederick retiring. Their defensive line, they could certainly go in that direction. But I don't think in the NFC, even in their own division, I just don't think with Carson Wentz in your division, you can be bad in the secondary. Because I don't think their defensive line is great. So they're not going to get a lot of pressure on Philadelphia. And Philadelphia in this draft's going wide receiver. So, Carson Wentz beat you with no weapons. He's certainly going to beat you with a bad secondary, a secondary that's now worse with more weapons. We know that. So here are, mock drafts are fun. Here are the 5 players, though. And here's what's funny about this draft. We know a half a dozen first-round picks are not going to be very good. Like, you know it. Have the courage to admit your team screwed up. 5 of these guys, go look at the last 5 drafts. 80% of the wide receivers have either been a bust or underachieved. Like 80%. But yet if you insinuate a guy could bust, you're a hater. 5 drafts, last 5 wide receivers. Go look. That's just one position. Here's the 5 guys I think it would be hard for me to see them bust. Jeff Okudah, cornerback, Ohio State. Great. No penalties. catch-up speed. Watch his video in football games. Watch his practice video. He just doesn't look like other guys. He can catch with one hand. He's fast. He's quick. He can be physical. I just don't see a bust. I think you can put him in physical, put him on an island. I think the second guy, my favorite offensive lineman, is Jedrick Wills from Alabama. Left tackle, right tackle, typical Alabama offensive lineman. Gamer, move him all around. I know he's faced the best pass rushers in college football in the SEC. Third guy is JEUDY. Somebody a couple days ago said, what about his injury? He hasn't missed a practice at Alabama in 2 years. Hasn't missed games. I think he's amazing. I think his ability to plant his foot, come back, I think his speed. He made SEC corners easily the best conference in the country for corners. He had his way with them, and that was a lot of double teams. I think the fourth guy is Chase Young at Ohio State. Wasn't overly productive last couple of college games, but if he goes to Ron Rivera, a guy who knows how to generate a pass rush without great pass rushers, I can't see him missing. And the guy that I don't understand why he doesn't get more love, he's not flashy, Andrew Thomas, the Georgia left tackle. That looks like a 10-year pro and a 4-time Pro Bowler. Big, good feet, not splashy. Just, again, SEC's facing the best pass rushers in America and handles all of them. Those five guys, I don't see a bust barring an injury. Now, and by the way, Ohio State, a Georgia guy, and 2 Bamas. That means those guys were in the most talent-rich programs in the country. Bama, Georgia, Ohio State. And they stood out. They stood out in talent-rich 5-star programs. Now, here are the 5 players that worry me. Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle. At one point, he was at 390 pounds. Back, feet injuries. He had a flag and a drug test. He didn't go against a lot of elite pass rushers in a bad conference outside of Clemson, the ACC. He's got a high ceiling, but whenever I see guys with weight issues, that's when you're in college and have no money. What happens when you can order pizza every night? I worry about him. I worry about Henry Ruggs, who the things I read is unbelievable athlete, has trouble with physical coverage. Well, you know what that tells me? NFL teams are going to throw physical coverage at him. Is he a one-trick pony? Speed, nothing else. I worry about CeeDee Lamb. Every time I see a video, every time, wide open, drag routes, Big 12 pillow fight defenses. I know he's talented, but a lot of these receivers in the last 5 drafts, 80% underachiever whiff. He also has a great coach in Lincoln Riley. I also saw him against Jeff Gladney, arguably the best corner in the Big 12, and he had 2 catches. Another guy I worry about, who I think is unbelievable, is Isaiah Simmons. I think he's great. But doesn't it depend that he gets the right coach? He doesn't have a position. I mean, you know and I know. How many great defensive coordinators are there in the NFL? If I said 10, 12, that means 20 guys aren't. And there's a big gap between great coaches in the NFL and the average coach. What if Isaiah Simmons gets a coach that just doesn't know where to put him? Again, I think if he landed, in Seattle some way with Pete Carroll, he'd be great. There's a lot of defensive guys. Sean McDermott, he'd be great. Ron Rivera. But I don't think those teams will get him. And number 5, and I like him, Joe Burrow. Anytime a guy is seen as a savior to a poorly run franchise, I have my doubts. I think between Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland, that's the best defensive conference in football. Look at the pass rushers. I could make a Pro Bowl level team defensively just off the Ravens, Browns, and Steelers players. I could make a Pro Bowl defense up. The pass rushers, the corners, the linebackers, the edge rushers. It's not that Joe Burrow's not a good prospect. What if he gets sacked 49 times? He doesn't have Cam's body. He doesn't have Big Ben's body. He doesn't have Andrew Luck's body. Well, what happens? I'm not saying these guys are busts. I'm saying I worry about where they're going. I worry about maybe their weight. Ruggs is not a physical player. I worry about guys like that. The one player, like Jeff Okudah at Ohio State, if he doesn't get hurt, I don't see how he busts. Every time I've watched him play, he's an NFL player in the Big Ten. That's what he looked like last year. Just that he was an NFL player playing corner against Wisconsin receivers. That's what he looked like to me. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show.
Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.